Hello and welcome to BBC World News. Mexicans are preparing to go to the polls to choose a new president, as well as hundreds of lawmakers and politicians. The front-runner for president is the left-wing former mayor of Mexico City, Andrés Manuel López Obrador. But the campaign has seen some of the worst political violence in the country for decades. In Ocampo, in the western state of Michoacán, the entire local police force was arrested after a candidate for mayor was murdered. Will Grant reports.
Until very recently, Ocampo was a town without a police force. Still hanging over the streets is the image of a dead candidate, Fernando Ángeles, murdered in his home amid the bloodiest election campaign in modern Mexican history. Shortly after his killing, the entire force, all 28 officers, were arrested by state police. It was all a mistake, insists Officer Germán Garcia. We're clean policemen. If we weren't, we'd still be in jail. Just 24 hours ago, these officers were under arrest for the alleged involvement in the murder of a political candidate. Now they're back on the streets patrolling their town and protesting their innocence. The charges, which still haven't been dropped, were for dereliction of duty over the killing. The mayor is adamant his police did nothing wrong.
No. In this case, the local police aren't responsible for protecting the candidates. That has to be requested by their political parties directly through other institutions of the state.
It is hard to know exactly what happened here in Michoacán, one of the most dangerous states in Mexico. Such are the murky links between the drug cartels and state institutions. The crime rate alone has many voters wanting change in this election. But so does the economy. Ocampo depends on its surrounding forests for ecotourism and logging. At the Lázaro Martínez wood mill, the workers say they find it hard to make ends meet and have had enough.
It's really time for a change. We want things to improve. We need so much in the country to be different. We need a new start in both the economy and the security situation.
The front-runner going into this vote, Andrés Manuel López Obrador, is in the lead largely because he's been saying the same thing. He's built a campaign around promises to tackle corruption, root and branch. Having been runner-up twice before, this time he needs those who've promised him their votes to deliver. Will Grant, BBC News, Ocampo.
Those polls open at 1300 GMT. We'll of course be following that story closely. That's actually in a couple of hours. But to get an idea of how important these elections are, do go to our website. You can find our analysis, including 5 things you need to know about the biggest election in Mexican history, the key facts, the backdrop of record levels of violence, and of course the country's future relationship with the US. That's at bbc.com/news or download the BBC News app. Now, police in India say more than 40 people have been killed when their bus fell into a gorge. The accident happened in the Himalayan state of Uttarakhand. At least 3 people have been taken to hospital with injuries, and it's not known what caused the bus to plunge into the ravine. The search for 12 young boys and their football coach trapped in a flooded cave in Thailand has entered its 9th day. Rescue teams have been trying to reach deeper into the chambers of the Tham Luang cave in the hope of finding the children, who are all aged between 11 and 16. Despite working around the clock with international assistance, there has been no contact with the group since they were reported missing, and monsoon rains have complicated the rescue by blocking passageways. A slight improvement, though, in the weather on Sunday has raised hopes that divers will be able to reach deeper into the recesses of the cave complex. Well, Hong Kong has been marking the 21st anniversary of the handover from Britain to China with a flag-raising ceremony. But an annual protest march has also been taking place. That's as tensions continue to simmer over the financial hub's democratic future. You can see these pictures. This is the march that took place earlier. We've actually seen thousands of people marching through that street, and they've been going for a couple of hours. This is the very end of it. We actually saw some yellow umbrellas as well, which is of course a mark of the 2014 umbrella movement where we saw 100,000 people take to the streets. That was at the height of the Occupy Central protests, when people were really quite unhappy about the pace of democracy in Hong Kong. And these protests are pretty much the same. They are really essentially showing the frustration that some people feel at the pace of change in Hong Kong. Let's take a look at some of the other stories making the news now. One of the junior partners in Germany's coalition government, the CSU, is meeting later to discuss whether Chancellor Angela Merkel's plans to tighten controls on immigration go far enough. Disagreements over immigration have threatened the stability of the coalition for several weeks. Mrs. Merkel recently secured an immigration deal with leaders of the EU, but it's not clear how the plan will be implemented. Hot weather and drought conditions are fueling wildfires across the western United States. Hundreds of firefighters have been battling more than 40 big wildfires. Thousands of people were forced to leave their homes. Almost 500,000 acres have been burned. Simone Veil, the first woman to become president of the European Parliament, is to be buried in the French Pantheon. Veil, who died in 2017, will enter the Paris Monument, where France celebrates its most illustrious men and women. Veil is also known for having granted French women the right to abortion in 1975. Now, football, and Saturday saw two of the greatest players in the history of the game crash out of the World Cup within a few hours of each other. Argentina's Lionel Messi and Portugal's Cristiano Ronaldo both lost in the first knockout stage. Timor reports.
They have been, without doubt, the players of their generation. Arguably, two of the best players of all time.